Iran is in shock. Iran is in mourning after Ismail Haniyeh, a well-respected guest at the inauguration of the new president of Iran, was killed in Tehran. So there was a procession and service that was held for the top Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh, in Tehran. Watch these images. Thousands attended this procession on the streets of Tehran, where Haniyeh's mortal remains were carried through the city, and watch that in a rather ornate vehicle. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he led the funeral prayers at the Tehran University. Iran's new president, whose inauguration Ismail Haniyeh had come to attend, Masoud Pezeshkian, he too was standing right there. It's a huge challenge for the two Iranian leaders now. After the funeral services in Tehran, Ismail Haniyeh's mortal remains are expected to be airlifted to Qatar for burial in Qatar. That's the information that we're getting at this stage. But Israel has actually issued a statement on operations that are ongoing so far, and I want to get you some of those details. You're looking at these images of the funeral procession in Tehran. Iran has warned of massive consequences. Now, it's been 10 months. Israel says it's carried out strikes at 60,000 terror locations in the past 10 months. 60,000. Israel has said that it's wiped out half the leadership of Hamas. And I want to get you those details because this is an official statement that's been released by the Israeli Defense Forces. They've said that they've eliminated half the leadership of Hamas military wing, including 6 brigade commanders, 20 battalion commanders, and approximately 150 company commanders, striking at over 60,000 terrorist targets. That's the statement that's been released by Israel. Who are some of the top commanders who've been eliminated? And I want to bring you their names and these details. Ayman Shauda was the deputy commander of the Hamas Shajia battalion that was involved in the October 7 massacre. It was actually a military-level strike inside Israel and a precision attack where the terrorists knew which kibbutz were they entering, which colony were they entering, which village were they entering, which town were they entering. How were they to enter? Where were they to neutralize security forces? How were they to enter homes and bomb shelters? Hossam Mansour, a platoon commander of the Internal Security Forces, Al Khair Foundation terrorist funding organization. Then, very important target neutralized just on the 13th of July was Rafa Salameh. Rafa Salameh was the brigade commander of the Khan Yunis brigade, the mastermind, one of the key plotters of the October 7 terror attack. And that is where Mohammed Deif was also killed in the same precision airstrike. Then Raat Thapat was the head of the manpower division of the military wing. He was responsible not just for R&D, but also for strengthening systems of Hamas, getting in new weapons and systems. Then Marwan Issa has been the deputy head of Hamas military wing. Ghazi Abu Tama was head of Hamas administration wing and combat support staff. Now, combat support, like in the army, extremely important because terrorists went with limited number of ammunition. Combat support meant that in multiple vans, you had terrorists who were carrying weapons and ammunition to replenish the stocks that had been expended. So that was the level of thinking that went into October 7. Empty vans were taken inside Israel so that those vans could come back with the Israeli hostages. More than 250 Israelis were brought back as hostages. Ahmad Ali was the commander of the Hamas naval unit responsible for the attack from the sea. Hussein Fayad, commander of the Hamas battalion, anti-tank battalion. So he's also been neutralized. So these are some of the terrorists who've been neutralized so far. Extremely, extremely important. But who is in many ways the last man still standing as far as Hamas is concerned? The top leader, Yahya Sinwar. Now, when you go to the office of Yoav Gallant, the defense minister of Israel, there are three prominent pictures. Ismail Haniyeh, one picture. Mohammed Deif, the second picture. And the third picture is of Yahya Sinwar. Yahya Sinwar is still alive. He could well be the next top man in this organization. Yahya Sinwar was a part of the establishing team of Hamas in the mid-1980s. He was a part of that Palestinian uprising. Through the rising, so he rose with the organization. He was elected as the leader in Gaza in 2017. Israeli officials say he's one of the key masterminds of the October 7 attack. Yahya Sinwar is believed to be hiding in and around the area of Khan Yunis. So, how is Israel going about this? We have Lieutenant Colonel Doron Avital joining us from Israel, one of the former IDF commanders. We have Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General of Infantry of the Indian Army, joining us on this broadcast. Colonel Avital, I want to begin by asking you, sir, if you could give us an overview of Israel's planning to take out the top Hamas leadership, the intelligence and the operations. How have you achieved this success, sir?
I think after the great shock of the 7th of October, the Israeli agencies, the Mossad, 200, and the intelligence, they really had to take themselves seriously and show that our capabilities as we used to have them. And I think we have shown them in the last three assassinations, including the assassination of Haniyeh, which is a major success, though Israel didn't take responsibility. Of course, Sinwar is an objective, the most important objective in our context. The problem we feel that is somewhere in those bunkers in Khan Yunis, surrounded by those hostages, which is the main issue for us, because the hostages is one of the greatest objectives, the 115 that are still there. Some of them are dead, of course. There's 115 that we have to recover. So this is the dilemma we are in. But those great successes, they're also via Hezbollah and also in Hamas, they give us a new confidence in our battle.
Okay, but how much time would you still have to carry out these kinds of operations? I want to understand this because, one, there is tremendous global pressure. Two, Palestinians say that they've had close to 40,000 fatalities of innocent people. They've had close to 90,000 injuries. In taking out just the half of Hamas leadership has been taken out, or top leadership has been taken out. It's not just Yahya Sinwar. Half of Hamas still remains, according to the IDF or officials there.
Yeah, but you never win a war by killing all the enemy soldiers. You kill the leadership, you break the spirit of and you force them to surrender. So that's what we're trying to do, but we want to do it through also a hostage deal. The question whether the military pressure can create a window of opportunity for some hostage deal. Before the Haniyeh assassination, we were there. Now I think it would have to be delayed for a while, but we keep the military pressure, both in the Philadelphia route, the corridor that separates Gaza from Egypt, and both inside those camps, and we do those incursions in and out according to intelligence. That's the way we operate now in Gaza. We are not conquering Gaza, but we're operating in and out following intelligence and hoping either a breakthrough with the hostages, a breakthrough with leadership. Sinwar is a symbol. If Sinwar is eliminated, Israel or the Israeli public can say, well, we have achieved our goal, and then we have to think, what's the day after in Gaza? Then we have, of course, Hezbollah, which we exchange fire in the north, and we have to wait what we'll see in the next few days in terms of the Hezbollah reaction to the assassination of their number two. And of course, we'll have to wait to see what the Iranians are playing, and they promise to retaliate. Let's see and wait.
So, Colonel Avital, I want to understand from you, even if you were to take out Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas head, or Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah head, let's say you're able to neutralize them. Are you saying it's like a snake whose head has been taken out and then the body cannot strike? Or there'll be a new head, it's a Hydra-headed monster, somebody else will start targeting Israel?
No, it's true. We have a long history of killing leadership or leaders of both of Hezbollah. The leader before Nasrallah was killed in 1989, I think,
yes,
in the southern of Lebanon, Moussawi. And of course, Nasrallah came out and is a formidable opponent. We know Nasrallah, we don't undermine our enemies. I think Hamas as a military power in Gaza is broken. I mean, they can still recruit people, they can still wage a guerrilla warfare. But if we'll succeed to kill the leadership, release hostages, then we might think of an end game to Gaza, which would mean a new ruler in Gaza. Who would it be? Palestinian Authority with Emirate soldiers, with Sunnite moderate countries delegate. We don't know yet. This is open, and this is also a point of political debate within Israel, because some of the Israelis, the right wing, they wouldn't want to see Palestinian Authority that rules Ramallah in West Bank taking over Gaza, but some of the people think this is the only venue in the end, in the long term. Hezbollah is a different story. With Hezbollah, we have a limited target. We want them back to what we call the Litani border, which is like the resolution of 1701 from the UN resolution of the last Lebanon war in 2006. But then if we'll succeed to do it, either diplomatically or by a military campaign, we would have to enforce it, unlike what we did from 2006. We would have to enforce this line in fire. I mean, we have to be all the time there, encouraging supervision from the air and make sure that Hezbollah doesn't go south. We can't trust not the UN and not the Southern Lebanese army, the official army of Lebanon, to do the job for us. This was our mistake, and we'll have to take this. It's a limited end game. We don't talk about right now dismantling Hezbollah. We just want them away from the Litani border. Exactly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Stay with me, Colonel, because India has had a long experience in battling Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. India has bled. Jews in India have bled, like you well know, Colonel, during 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks when the Jewish Shabbat house was targeted. So I want to quickly bring in General Sanjay Kulkarni. General Kulkarni, Israel, with single-minded attention, it's gone after terrorist leadership. India has bled much longer at the hands of Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, but we haven't succeeded in taking out terrorists like Hafiz Muhammad Saeed or that Maulana of terror Masood Azhar or Sayyid Salahuddin or Zakir Rahman Lakwi or that 1993 Mumbai blast convict Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar. Can India do an Israel and neutralize the terror threat that comes from Pakistan?
Gaurav, thank you. I think definitely the lesson to be learned from Israel. There is no denying the fact, because until and unless we take this leadership out from Pakistan, Pakistan will continue to be, breeding terror and will continue to use terror as an instrument of policy. That is something which Pakistan is adapting, and Pakistan sees itself. Even the kind of tweeting that you find coming out of Pakistan, people is indicative as to what the mindset is all about. But
General,
yes,
give me a moment as we reestablish that audio link. Yes, General, Colonel Avital, Colonel, Israel does not face the kind of adversary India faces. You see, Hamas is a terrorist organization, but does Hamas have surface-to-air missile capabilities, like Pakistan would? In Pakistan's instance, there's an army that backs terrorists. Is the challenge much bigger for India in your appreciation?
Yeah, the challenge is bigger for sure, but of course we can avoid those air defense mechanisms, and we did it in the past, even targeting this, if we did the targeting of Haniyeh in Iran, or attacks in Iran, or attacks in Baalbek, which is the northern part of Lebanon, where it's the back office, if you want, of Hezbollah. It requires a lot of dismantling of air defense mechanism. Our Air Force knows to do it, and I'm sure we did it also when we attacked in Hudaydah in Yemen. So of course I think those capabilities exist, but you have to utilize them smart. But of course, Pakistan is it's a nuclear country, and if it harbors terrorism, then you have a real challenge.
So, General Kulkarni, in this scenario then, can India, because Israel often uses, at least that is what is said in folklore, never confirmed officially, uses local assets to take out the threat. Can India also not use local assets in various countries to eliminate the threat? For example, a Hafiz Saeed neutralized by one of his own.
See, attempt can be made, but one must not forget, Gaurav, Israelis are surrounded by terrorists. You know, Hamas is, well, it had a state, but Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hezbollah, terrorist organization. Houthi is a terrorist organization. It's probably Pakistan is the only country where most countries would have an army, but here the Pak army has a country. So it's a very, very difficult situation when it comes to Pakistan, because Pakistan is, well, it may not be nuclear from that point of view, but yes, Pakistan is a nuclear state. Pakistan army is a huge army. It's almost a 6 lakh army. It has funds coming even once upon a time from America. Now, of course, it's funding. It has its own $20 billion economy of its own. Uses terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Has also a huge amount of sleeper cells in India which are working for Pakistan.
General, with due respect, we all know the problems, and we've dealt with the problem for 40 years. All of you, and that's our expectation of our intelligence agencies, security agencies, our armed forces, and also our political leadership. By now, in 40 years, you must have solutions. What are those solutions? We all know the problems. What are the solutions? Why can't India take out a Hafiz Saeed or a Masood Azhar? Because clearly, Pakistan may be a crazy country. It will not resort to a nuclear strike or a war because a terrorist, a radical Islamist terrorist has been killed on its soil.
I agree, Gaurav, you're absolutely right. We need to, as I said to begin with, we need to learn from Israel. And there is no denying the fact. You find the Deif God, Shukur God, you find Haniyeh God. And so much so, I understand in Damascus also the IRGC aerospace commander God. So if that be so, there is no denying. The leadership has to go. There is no doubt about that, because Israel suffers an existential threat. They are all set to throw the Jews into the ocean. They can't do that. How can you throw anybody into the sea? And therefore, Israel has to convey in no uncertain terms that should you be thinking that way, well, you are wrong and you'll be sorted out. And that is the reason why Israel is determined. And Israel's determination...
I also want to come to you, Colonel. What is your appreciation? Because you've seen how India has battled Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. Are there lessons for India to learn from Israel's example?
Sure. In fact, a month after the 7th of October, I was visiting the Sinegya Foundation in Bangalore, and where I met many Indian generals, and I was expressing to them, first of all, our expertise, but also our failings. 7th of October was a great intelligence failing, so we have to work out our failings, but very fast go back to our elements of expertise and capabilities. And I think what we know how to do, and now we are showing it, is to create those windows of opportunity when everything adds up, the intelligence, the technology, the Air Force, the different agencies working together in sync, Mossad, Army, this is Air Force. You have to work the whole thing together. And we have a lot of practice in this, and we do those things in special operations, which are not known to the public, in operations that are known. Yes, we can share expertise, and I think we should.
Absolutely. I'll let that be the last word on this part of the show. Colonel Doron Avital and General Kulkarni for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks.